Welcome back, biology learners. Today, we're exploring a lesser-known but super important metabolic pathway, the pentose phosphate pathway, or PPP for short. It's not just about energy, but also about building blocks for DNA and protecting cells from damage. Let's dive in. The pentose phosphate pathway is an alternative route for glucose metabolism, happening in the cytoplasm of the cell, just like glycolysis. But instead of making ADP, PPP makes heavy checkmark NADPH, a reducing agent, essential for antioxidant defense and biosynthesis. Heavy checkmark ribose, 5-phosphate, used to make DNA and RNA. It's especially active in tissues like the liver, adrenal glands, fat tissue, and red blood cells, where there's a high demand for NADPH or nucleotide synthesis. PPP has two phases, the oxidative phase, which is irreversible, and the non-oxidative phase, which is reversible. In the oxidative phase, glucose 6-phosphate is oxidized to form NADPH and ribose, 5-phosphate. Here's how it happens step by step. Keycap 1 glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, G6PD, converts glucose 6-phosphate into 6-phosphoglycono delta-lactone, producing 1-NADPH. Keycap 2 6-phosphogluconolactonase converts it to 6-phosphogluconate. Keycap 3 6-phosphogluconate dehydrogenase oxidizes this to ribulose 5-phosphate, producing another NADPH and releasing CO2. Light bulb, so the oxidative phase gives us 2 NADPH per glucose 6-phosphate. In a non-oxidative phase, the cell shuffles 5 carbon sugars around to make what it needs. Keycap 1 ribulose 5-phosphate is converted to ribose 5-phosphate, needed for nucleotide and nucleic acid synthesis. Keycap 2, if ribose 5-phosphate isn't needed, the cell recycles the carbon atoms. Trans-ketolase and trans-soldolase rearrange carbon atoms to produce O-fructose 6-phosphate goes back to glycolysis. O-glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, another glycolytic intermediate. Brain, this phase is all about flexibility. The cell can make ribose for DNA or shuffle carbons back into glycolysis. Let's quickly summarize what PPP is good for. Heavy checkmark NADPH production, used in fatty acid and cholesterol synthesis. Detoxification in liver, cytochrome P450. Reducing glutathione in red blood cells to fight oxidative damage. Heavy checkmark ribose, 5-phosphate. Needed for DNA, RNA, ADP, NAD, FAD, all nucleotides. Heavy checkmark carbon shuffling. Links with glycolysis, no carbons wasted. Now, let's talk about regulation, how the cell controls this pathway. Small blue diamond, the key enzyme is glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase, G6PD. Red square inhibited by high levels of NADPH. Green square activated by high levels of NADP, means the cell needs more NADPH. Collision clinical note. A deficiency in G6PD, especially common in parts of Africa and Asia, can lead to hemolytic anemia, especially after eating fava beans or taking certain drugs. That's because the cell can't make enough NADPH to deal with oxidative stress. To sum it all up, the pentose phosphate pathway runs in the cytoplasm. It has two phases. Oxidative makes NADPH, and non-oxidative makes ribose or returns carbons to glycolysis. It's regulated mainly by the NADPH/NADP ratio. If this helped you understand the PPP, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. Drop a comment if you'd like us to cover beta oxidation next. Until next time, keep your cells energized and your curiosity alive. Keep learning and exploring.